What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. I am still alive. I very much apologize for the lack of videos. This is actually number two. I've recorded this one because I realized that I missed a bunch of stuff that I want to update you guys on. For the few people who still care or are interested, and I don't blame you at all for anybody who's dropped off because I have been terrible at making videos. So let me tell you why and give you a little bit of an explanation. So about me, for anyone who doesn't know anything or this is your first time ever seeing my face on the internet for whatever reason, my name's Matt and I have been traveling around the world for most of my 20s. The 20s are just about over now and it's been a really interesting time. So I'm a Canadian citizen and I got up at about 25, 26 and I went and lived in Korea for a year. Then I went and moved back to North America where I lived down in Florida in the States. Long story short, that ended with some complications. I can tell that story later. And I ended up back in Canada, but I didn't want to go back to Ontario and just kind of the place I was used to. So I ended up moving to Vancouver, which is on the opposite end of the country. For people who aren't aware, it's actually a 6 hour flight from where I grew up, so it's pretty far away. It's pretty different as well. There's a lot of changes from the cities, although everyone still kind of sounds the same. Canadians have like one accent. And yeah, so that was really cool. I lived there for a couple of years. That's when I got my first job in the game industry, working as a programmer for a mobile company. And then I ended up kind of getting a little bit bored of that. I was making kids' games, and it wasn't really something I felt like I wanted to do forever, although it was a great place to work. And I ended up hopping on a plane and moving to Japan for a year. So I lived in Japan for a year, and then that's the last video that I've had on this channel until today. That was about 6 months ago. And the last change that I've made is I moved to Dublin. So now I live in Ireland. So it's been Canada to Korea, back to America, back to Japan, then somewhere in the middle where I'm now living in Europe. So I do a lot of different stuff, and I'm always kind of trying to juggle 20 different skills at a time, and that's sort of who I am. And so luckily, when I got here, I needed to sort my entire life out. So like for anyone who's never moved to a new country before, you basically have to hit restart on everything. You don't have any friends, you don't have a place to live, you don't have any income, you have no idea how you're going to sort all that out. And you get there and it's like, all right, go. And that's why all the videos stop because, oh my God, is it ever busy? We didn't even have the internet for like a month. We're using cell phones and plugging them into laptops and trying to do stuff like that. So it's been a really interesting time. I didn't know where I was going to end up working. I started looking for jobs in the game industry. Everybody here was very slow getting back to me. I did eventually get tested and a follow-up interview with a decently well-renowned company here, I suppose. And I actually didn't even go to the interview. I ended up turning them down because I got a job offer to do something else I thought might be a really cool experience. So I'm working right now at an ad agency, working under the title creative technologist. And what that means is I get to put together all sorts of like kind of funky technology and things like that for different companies, for different campaigns, and cool stuff like that. So we serve some really, really gigantic clients, and I get to build like games and animations and like VFX and all sorts of different stuff every day. So it's kind of cool. It suits my skill set pretty well, and it's really, really relaxed here. For anyone who's never lived in Europe compared to North America, and especially compared to Asia, the working culture is so chill. Like everyone just seems like, yeah, whatever, it's all good. Like one of my first days, my boss leaned over from his monitor and was like, do you have any work left? And I was like, no. And he's like, then what are you doing here? Go home. Like, don't waste your time. And that was like the coolest sentence in the world for me because normally I'm used to bosses being more like, I pay you for 8 hours, you're gonna be here for 8 hours. And yeah, I guess you kind of pay me for 8 hours, but more than that, you pay me for a job. But people's attitudes just are pretty different. So here I feel like they're far more concerned that the job gets done. And that's just really cool. Not to mention 20 days of vacation base, which for anybody who's not from North America, we get about 2 weeks starting for most jobs. So this is really nice. I'm getting used to it. Also, euros are worth a fortune compared to Canadian dollar. I think the Canadian dollar is worth like 60 cents or something of a euro, so it's like 60% as valuable. So my money was just draining when I first moved here. So yeah, that's been kind of what I've been up to. And I can tell you tons and tons of stuff about all that. Some people here follow that I make games and things like that, so we're going to jump over to that for just a minute or two here. I'm going to show you off what I've currently been working on. So I met a guy here who is trying to get himself into game development. He's already built and released one mobile title, and he wanted to get into more stuff. So I started talking to him. He was asking me for a lot of input and advice, and we kind of started chatting. Next thing you know, we came up with a concept for a game. So my game is on hold. It is not gone. It is not going to be not finished. I absolutely will finish that project. You can hold me to that. It is, I will always have these things on the go. But I realized with my game, I have actually most of it's programmed. There's obviously more programming always, but I have a huge backlog of programming. I have about 6 months of successful coding. My art skills are terrible. So on this game, what ended up happening is I am working more as a technical artist slash character artist, which is not my skill set at all. For those of you who've watched me try to create art, it is awful. So I decided to get better at it. And what's the best way to get better at it? Well, to practice. So before I go and start dumping all this stuff into my game, which was my original plan, I'm working on this game. And so let me show you guys what it looks like. We're calling it Project Spaceship. I can't show off too much, unfortunately, because one, I haven't even cleared that I'd show you guys this video with my partner. I'm sure he won't mind too much just to see general things, because mostly I'm just going to show you the art and not even talk about the functionality yet. Yet being the key word. Someday I'm going to show you guys exactly what's going on here, because we've been working on this for a few months, but it's not quite ready for everyone's judgmental eyes. It's kind of like, you know, you don't show someone a drawing when it's too early, because everyone rips you apart for it. And so yeah, we've got a few months into this, and I'm looking forward to this. I think it's gonna be a really fun game. You can see there's 2 little spacemen here, so it is actually going to be a co-op game. And yeah, it's going to support multiple players, and we've got a bunch of cool stuff that you can do in the game, although I can't tell you much. So this is the spaceship. I just put all of this in about a week ago. So I'm doing, as I said, like technical art. So I'm kind of like importing all the art assets. I'm making some of them myself. And I am doing all the VFX, lighting, kind of visual setups and things like that. So yeah, so we've got, everything's coming along really well. I'm starting to be happy with it, which is why I think it's ready to be shown to the world, at least just for a glance, kind of more of a still image than a playable demo. And I've got a lot of stuff like the Spaceman. So this is the main thing I've been working on for people who are curious about 3D art. Is I've been working on getting going from a sculpt to a playable game character, which is actually a lot of work. There's a huge pipeline you have to go through. So this is currently, I'm calling him Spaceman Bob. I'm working on a little animation tonight, get him to hop into this chair here. Nothing too crazy. It's so far away in game that you actually have to make kind of some funky animation choices to get these things to be really visual. So you have to have him kind of do this really over exaggerated hop. And he's also supposed to be pretty stubby and cute. So that's going on with that. So I won't give you guys too much of a rundown. The biggest thing I'm working on here is I'm trying to get into more sculpting. So this guy has actually been sculpted. Now this is the version of him that is a low poly, and it's got baked normals, so I can bring some of the details of the sculpt. So I don't have a lot of colors on him right now, so you can't see all this stuff separated by color like you could before with the sculpt. But you can see there's like actually a lot of detail and stuff going on here, whereas when you actually check out the mesh, it's extremely simple. And the way you get this is by baking in the normals. So I've got a couple pulls over here on the sides, and other than that, it's a pretty clean mesh. I don't know if I showed you guys the first mesh I worked on with Norbert from the other game, but I'm getting significantly better at this one day at a time. So this is how things are looking right now. I've got my own little rig built up, although I'm still using these kind of ghetto rigs. So the next thing I'm going to do is build out a proper character rig for the next guy. And yeah, so I'm getting lots and lots of practice in doing all of this character sculpting and all this creation, things like that. So that's a general update of what I'm up to. I'm just going to give you guys a minute or two here, or probably more because I talk a lot, just to give you kind of what life is like in Europe for anybody who's from North America, as I feel like that's probably most people who watch this channel. So it's pretty similar. There's a lot of cultural similarities with North America and Europe, whereas in Asia, everything is totally different. Life in Japan was super strange compared to life in Dublin. It feels pretty normal. English is the native language, although there is actually a fair amount of Irish here, which I was not aware of until I moved here. How predominant it is. It's on all the signage, it's on the buses and things like that. There's like villages where people speak Irish, so it's very much an alive language. I thought it was mostly dead myself. So yeah, that has been going on. It's a really interesting city. It's definitely worth a visit. Some of the hiking and stuff is just gorgeous because there's almost no tree coverage. So every step you take, you can just overlook all the valleys and everything. Nothing gets too mountainous or too crazy high, and there's a lot of rain here, so it's really tough to kind of plan those days out. But it's a pretty cool place to live. It's really interesting so far. I love earning money in euros because if you want to go somewhere else, it's pretty cheap. If you live in Europe, you can also fly to another country for like $200, which for us people in Canada is insane because you can't even go to America for $200, even if it's like right next to you. So yeah, there's just a lot of really cool opportunities here. A couple of downsides, I suppose, is there's definitely a shift in culture. I've noticed a lot of things feel very like non-friendly to me with Irish people, and I've talked to people about this. I've talked to Irish people about this, and they are actually almost a little bit surprised at the Canadian style, I suppose. So I work with a few people. I work with a lot of people actually at this agency, and a few of them are Canadians, and they've come up and been really kind and what I'm used to. And then it's been very different with the Irish people that I work with, and honestly different with the people from all over, because in the EU you have open borders. So people from Italy and Spain and like Germany and France and everywhere, they all come and they can all live here. So you get this incredible multicultural mix, and it's not a multicultural mix where, you know, like in Canada, if you're from somewhere else, the Canadians are all superior to you in terms of livability. We're all more hireable, it's easier for us in every single way, shape, and form. It's much harder for foreigners. When I lived in Canada, I was dating a girl from Mongolia, and let me tell you, life for her has been a lot more difficult than it was for me. Now here, it's actually the opposite, where life is more difficult for me. And my friend I have a friend of mine who's also moved here as an American, and it would be difficult for him, except he has Portuguese citizenship, so it's very simple because that basically gives you EU citizenship, which means you can do whatever you want. You can move around, live, yada, yada, yada. I've had to pay way more money for all these sorts of cards and IDs and things that he just doesn't have to do. So those things can be a little bit more difficult, getting used to the lifestyle. Things like there's some stereotypes in Ireland, like drinking is huge. I mean, I personally would say that in every country, drinking is huge. Although some funny little facts and stuff, like a lot of times you ask people where things are in Ireland, they don't give you street names, they give you pubs. They're like, oh, it's beside Shanigan's or O'Houlihan's or some sort of Irish pub name, and you're just supposed to know where that is. Now, I personally don't drink very much ever or go to Irish pubs for, since I didn't never lived here before, so I don't know where anything is. People give me directions. It's very interesting and awkward. Other fun stuff in life for anybody who's curious, I know this video is getting long, my apologies, but it's kind of a catch-up video, is I'm going to try 2 new things coming up, and I will try to probably make some content based around these things. One of those is I'm going to try to go out and do some sculpting, like a sculpting class where you are physically sculpting with clay. So I will show you some of the sculpts that I've done eventually in Blender, and we can talk about like those styles and methods I've kind of worked on to figure those things out. Some stuff like eyelids are crazy difficult for me. I don't know why. Noses and mouths and things and the brow line and ears. Actually, ears are really easy for me, whereas eyelids are like my Achilles heel. So I'm going to probably go out and try out a sculpting class in person. That won't be starting until next month, so I'll see when that happens. Another fun fact for anybody who's interested in fitness is, I usually wear like the cutoffs and the muscles and all that kind of stuff. Well, I actually wrenched my back trying a 200 kilogram deadlift. For people in North America, that's about 440 pounds. I was so close. I was just about to lock it out, and then my back went and the whole weight just slammed down to the ground real quick, and I couldn't even get the weights off. Another guy had to come and help me, and I was laying in bed. I couldn't walk for a couple of days, so it was a pretty bad pull. That was about a week and a half ago, and I'm already up. I went back to the gym today for the first time, so it kind of interrupted my training and things a little bit, but I am trying to get a little bit stronger and all that kind of stuff as well. So that leads into the other thing that I'm going to go try out, which I think is super cool and interesting, is I found an adults gymnastics course. My personal goal is I'd love to be able to do a backflip. I'm 6'2", or in metric, that's about 188 centimeters. So I'm a pretty tall guy, and I'm very lanky, and there's lots of distance in all these limbs. So I think it'll be kind of funny and goofy looking if I can flip myself over. Probably the first time I'll go terribly as well and land on my head or something. So should be an interesting time. I'll try to get a few shots of these things happening and make a few more videos coming out. Again, no big promises, no professional YouTube aspirations. I've got work and a million different skills I'm working on, but I do like to build some or make some videos, give back to you guys. I love watching content on YouTube, kind of like this, just to kind of catch up on what other people are working on. And I find it very inspirational to see other people developing their skill sets. So I'm not gone forever by any means. I apologize that the videos kind of just hit these walls every once in a while. I do hope to actually stay in Europe, maybe not Ireland, although that'd be nice. Although I would like to stay in these central countries. So hopefully any sort of movement at this point in time will finally be over. I kind of decided to do that through my 20s, and the 20s are coming to an end real soon. So I think that time is done. So we'll see. We'll see. I always think these things, but yeah, hopefully I can stay put, and that means that I can keep things a little more stable and make videos once in a while. So thank you guys for watching. For anybody who's got any questions or comments, please drop them down below, and I'd love to hear what you guys are up to. Is anybody out there working on their own set of skills? Anybody got any sort of cool tips or tricks for character creation, for sculpting, for normal baking? Would be really cool. It's one of the things I definitely need to learn how to do better, because my sculpts to my normals went pretty terribly. And just if you're making a game or something cool like that, yeah, talk about it. I'd love to hear what you guys are up to as well, for the few people who are still lingering around checking out my content. For anybody who's here for Street Fighter, I'm sorry, it's pretty dead in my eyes, although I did just watch EVO. That was my Facebook, by the way, not yours, don't worry. I did just watch EVO. It was awesome. My Facebook again. And yeah, so that's still something I'm interested in, but it's certainly not something I'm devoting a large swath of time to. And I actually sold my sticks, so I can't even play anymore. All I've got is controllers, and I'm really bad at using those. I can't do combos or anything at all, so I'm out of that game entirely. So my apologies if that's what you signed up for. But Beyond Technical has shifted, and now it's just going to be a channel about me and stuff that I do, and I'll throw you guys some content from time to time when I can manage it. I have a lot going on. Life's real busy, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. And if you have any questions or you want a video about something specific, I'd be cool to talk about anything. I don't mind doing these kind of vlog style videos, and I think one day I'd love to sit down and just make a whole series where I talk about Korea, I talk about Japan, I talk about Europe, I talk about North America. I've lived, on all the major continents basically, other than like Africa and South America at this point. So I got a pretty decent chunk, I guess Australia, if it counts them. Sorry, Australians. I've got a pretty decent chunk of experience, so hopefully that kind of stuff might be interesting. Anyways, yeah, let me know, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.